From Local 10 News, this is a
Here we go.
News Alert.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We're following breaking news here. Let's go to Andrew Perez. We're following this breaking news right now in Miami. Andrew, set the scene for us. Where are you and what is happening right now?
Well, believe it or not, Calvin, right now I am on I-95. Take a look. There's another police line here. These are the northbound lanes of I-95. You've got the northbound and the southbound lanes that are completely shut down right now. Protesters were going through Wynwood, and then ultimately, as they were crossing through Wynwood, spilled over through a fence and then onto I-95. You can see this standoff happening right now live. It's unclear exactly what will happen here. We haven't seen any violence. We haven't seen any physical clashes. But the question is, when will these protesters get off the interstate? You can see there's quite a few of them. We've been following this protest pretty much throughout the entire day here on Local 10 News. That started earlier today at around 4 o'clock, went through Wynwood, went through Midtown. They tried to get on a highway closer to the Julia Tuttle Causeway. There was some tense exchanges there between law enforcement and protesters, but ultimately the organizers of the protest were able to kind of calm everybody down, de-escalate, and get them back, marching back again through Midtown, back through Wynwood, and now here we are on the other side of Wynwood. Again, if you're just joining us, I-95 northbound, I-95 southbound, right next to Wynwood in Miami, shut down because these protesters have crossed over. You can hear them yelling, "No justice, no peace," chanting. No physical confrontations, but the next question is, what is the next measure that will be taken as police start to get some of these cars out of the way and then figure out exactly what will happen from here? We're monitoring this situation. I'll send it back to you.
Andrew, if you can, we missed when you said the cross street. So it's 95 northbound and southbound that's closed near Wynwood, but do you have the street that you're on?
So this is right near, I don't know if you're familiar with Austin Burke. It's that suit shop right off Miami. I want to show you something because, well, take a walk with me. Again, keep in mind this is a very fluid situation. These protesters spilled out. Police have actually managed, the protesters actually grabbed some of the fencing and put it up here on I-95 to kind of block. You can see them in that line with police right there. So the next exit would be 195. That would lead you to the Julia Tuttle Causeway. But because this is uncertain and because there are so many people out here, the north and southbound lanes of I-95 have been shut down. It appears that protesters right now are going to start getting off of I-95. You can see some of the organizers trying to encourage them, okay, we got our message out, we did what we wanted to do. But at this point, it's still very much so a wait and see.
Well, Andrew, I'm curious, what are they chanting as they are standing on I-95 right now? And how tense of a situation is this with police?
So I will say it has not been violent at all. There have been no physical confrontations whatsoever. However, these protesters, they are angry. They are making sure that their voices are heard. And you can see how far back police are. And then if you take a look on this side, you can see where the protesters are. On the other side as well, they're not right up in front of the police at this moment. The concern is what will happen from here.
Andrew, when we first joined you, it was a little after when we finished the show at 6:30, it was around 7 o'clock. We were watching these protesters. They made their way to the ramp on the Julia Tuttle. Then they sort of turned around and walked back toward Wynwood area, Biscayne area. At what point, I guess, did you notice that they wanted to revert and come back toward the highway?
Well, to be honest, it seemed that their intention the entire time was to try to get on the highway one way or another, whether it was the 195, whether it was the Julia Tuttle trying to get into Miami Beach. They were ultimately stopped. They turned around because it started getting really tense. Police showed up with reinforcements and riot gear and tear gas. And organizers said, you know what, we're not going to allow this to be a violent situation with a physical clash with police. They turned the protesters around, marched back through Midtown, back through Wynwood, but then came out on the other side. And here they are on I-95. But as you can see, organizers are trying to corral the crowd to try and get back into Wynwood, back into Miami, down that way. They're starting to clear people out. So it appears that this is starting to de-escalate.
So what is the point of trying to get onto the highway? I'm not sure. Were they trying to go to Miami Beach? Andrew, or do you know at this point?
Calvin, to be honest, I've been asking everybody since I've been out here earlier today around 5 o'clock, and there doesn't seem to be a clear direction at this point. There are a very small group of organizers that have been kind of corralling this very large crowd, and they've been stopping every so often, regrouping, and then moving again.
Andrew, we saw a rather very large police presence around 7 o'clock. From our vantage point, what we can see, we can't see as many police, or I can't see as many police as we did earlier. Does it seem like there is less of a police presence? Does it seem like they're going to intervene at some point?
Well, the one thing I have noticed is that police, they haven't been involved in the protests on the streets. They've been on the outskirts, so focused more on the highways, trying to stay away, trying, as they say, as a tactic to remain invisible. But the goal for officers at this point has been to try and keep protesters off of the highway. Obviously, in this situation that failed, they succeeded earlier. So it appears that the crowd has had enough and they're going to start to go back through Wynwood, start marching again. But again, it's unclear exactly where this will go next, guys.
And Andrew, you were obviously on the air this past weekend on Saturday and Sunday when these marches went from being peaceful to turning violent. What is your gut feeling as you're out there right now? Do you get the impression that this may potentially turn into something that could get pretty ugly?
So this is a very passionate group. It is a very young group. The demographic out here is much younger than we've seen in other protests. Before, we've seen families, older people mixed in with younger people. This is a predominantly younger group. But Calvin, plain and simple, it hasn't been violent. There haven't been these physical confrontations with police. There were times, I'm not going to lie, that it started getting tense, that protesters would get up to a police line, for instance, over at 195, trying to get on the highway. And then the crowd started rallying, trying to, get onto the highway. But organizers have actually done a relatively good job keeping this crowd in check. In this situation right here, they accomplished what appeared that they wanted to accomplish, which was to get out on the highway. And now, of their own volition, they're going back. And the march will continue. And at this time, we're going to continue to march with them and see exactly where this ends up.
Andrew, so Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez issued a curfew a little while ago, for a 10 p.m. curfew for Miami-Dade County. Not sure if you were aware of that just yet. We just found out a little while ago. Does it seem like this crowd is going to start to diminish? Do you think it's gotten bigger since the afternoon? What is your impression, and I guess, when they find out about this 10 p.m. curfew?
Just actually having this conversation as we were walking toward, again, not expecting that they were actually going to get on the highway this time. But I was talking to Mario Alonso, who's the photojournalist behind the camera right now, who's been this. And frankly, this crowd seems very passionate, very young. It's a Friday night. We don't know where exactly it'll end up. Will it end up in a rally, in a prayer, in speeches? It's unclear right now. So at this point, it's still a wait-and-see situation, but there's still a lot of fire in this crowd. Again, not in a violent way. There's still a lot of fire, a lot of passion, and it appears a very diverse group of young people out here that just really want to make sure they bring this message home.
Andrew, is it possible for you to walk with them and maybe catch up with one of the protesters so we can find out where they may be on the move to right now? But right now, we're going to stay with this picture as we continue to look at I-95. This is right at I-95 and 26th Street, and you saw there